It is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And this video is a review of the movie Us. It came out a while back and I've been wanting to do this review, so here we go. And just to give you a heads up, this is all spoilers. You know, in watching a Jordan Peele movie, you want to discuss, look up what other people think, and I've seen some reviews where they'll be like, oh, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, and I'm just like, how is that a review if you're not giving any spoilers? And I saw another person where, oh yeah, on my last reviews, somebody in the comments complained that I gave away the story. Why are you clicking on reviews if you, what? I don't understand. So this is all spoilers from beginning to end because it's a review, and the review is supposed to review the movie. So the synopsis is pretty much, it's a movie about a family that is headed to Santa Cruz for vacation. The mom doesn't really want to go, but they end up going anyway. And the mom doesn't want to go because she has an event from her past that she doesn't want to revisit, and that past ends up visiting her in the form of doppelgangers, and the movie commences from there. So the character names, because I'll be using the real character names so that if you don't know what the character names are, you won't be lost. So Adelaide is the mom, and then Adelaide's tether is red. And red is the color of the jumpsuit, so that could be where it came from. I also saw something else referencing Malcolm X because he was called Detroit Red, and red is revolutionary. Who knows? Gabriel is the dad, and then his doppelganger is Abraham. I read the Archangel Gabriel appears on Earth to announce that 2 babies are on the way, and that's John the Baptist and Jesus. When Gabriel appears in Adelaide's life in Us, it means babies are on the way for Red, whether she wants them or not, and that is referenced in the movie in one of Red's dialogues, or monologues, sorry. Zora is the daughter, and her tether is Ombre, and Ombre actually means the darkest part of the shadow. Kudos to you, Jordan Peele. Jason is the son. You know, Jason wears masks in the scary movies, and you know, Jason, the scary movie dude. And then Pluto is his tether, and Pluto in Roman mythology is the ruler of the underworld. So there's a method to the madness. You know, Jordan Peele does everything with a purpose. So my initial thoughts, when I first left the movie theater, I did not like the movie. It felt underwhelming to me. The first half of the movie was when I watched it, and when I was viewing it, I felt like I could see Jordan Peele say, okay, I'm gonna put this here, and then I'm gonna do this, and then this is next. I felt like, not necessarily that it was predictable, it's just I could see his mind working in the first half of the film. And as a film major, that's reminiscent of when they told us freshman year that we would never enjoy a movie ever again. That wasn't true for me because I can kind of zoom out and enjoy movies, but there are points where I zoom in and pay attention from my film major, put my film major hat on, my filmmaker hat on, and sometimes it's like, oh, this looks like what a freshman year film major would do, because you know, you learn in film school, in order to break the rules, you have to learn the rules, and sometimes filmmakers seem like they are just breaking the rules and they don't even know what rules they're breaking. They're just doing whatever, which at the end of the day, you can do whatever the heck you want. But yeah, so sometimes when I'm when I'm zooming in, I was like, that could have been better. So the first half of the movie was meh. And then after a while, it started to pick up, and I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And then by the end of the movie, it was just okay again. And I'm really surprised that, you know, because I'm not a scary movie person. So I have seen minimal scary movies. I almost bit my finger off seeing Chucky when I was like 8 years old. And so for people who like scary movies to really like this movie, it was interesting to me when I first left the movie theater. Because if I had seen as many scary movies as people who like scary movies have seen, I don't know. So I did pick up on the twist at the end when I saw the first trailer, but I picked the wrong character in the wrong time period. So when I saw the first trailer and I saw Jason and Pluto in the closet, I thought that Jason and Pluto had switched when Jason wandered off at the beach. And then when they were in the closet, it was going to be that Jason, it was the real Jason, and he couldn't tell you because his mouth was burned. But it ended up being that Red and Adelaide had switched. So I did guess the switch. I just guessed it wrong for the wrong character. And so after getting home and that's the great thing about a Jordan Peele movie, is that even if you don't like it, he's still forcing you to analyze the heck out of his movies. Which for this particular movie is for better or for worse, because in that I'm not a scary movie person, I'm trying to go to sleep, but I can't stop analyzing it and seeing the movie. And so, in an effort to go to sleep, I'm like, oh, maybe I should use, in dire circumstances, I use my white noise app, but all the sounds that you usually use are not good for after you see a scary movie. So like raindrops, thunderstorms, even jungle noises, is like, this is not gonna help me go to sleep. This is gonna make it worse. And then I tried to play jazz music, but jazz is just too busy to try to go to sleep to. So I just cut everything off and just tried to block out all the images. But I've gotten to a point where I am not sure if I like the movie. I feel like I do now, after analyzing it and people explaining certain things, but I would for sure have to see the movie again to know if I actually like the movie, or just like if I just like the stuff behind the movie. And initially I was afraid to watch the movie again, because even though this is a suspense movie, it was still scary enough for me to not want to immediately see it again. But I feel like after all this kind of research and time, I might be able to see it a second time and be okay. So I'm doing this review after one time seeing it and a lot of watching interviews and videos. So I'm going to start with things I had issues with. Something that I had mentioned to people in discussion is that the blackness didn't hit for me very well. And you know, I've said before, there's definitely multiple ways to be black, but I felt like in the acting there was a certain black that was being they were going for, and it didn't land. And then so after watching interviews and reading about it, I think that was on purpose. So I'm okay with it since it's on purpose. But walking out of the movie theater, you know, when Adelaide was, when they were in a car and she was snapping to "I Got 5 on it," I'm like, first of all, black people don't snap to rap music. Because I feel like that's like a huge like white people and Asian people thing, where they start clapping to music that is not clappable music. I don't know if anybody has ever noticed that. But And then I was like, if we do snap to rap music, it's not going to be like she did. And so people came and was like, well, you know, she's actually the tether, and it's like means all this. And I'm just like, so you can learn how to be a whole ballet dancer, but you can't snap on beat? That don't make no sense to me. Like, that's a disconnect. If she wasn't a ballet dancer, if her way of being able to eventually talk was not connected to anything that had to do with any type of rhythm, then I could be like, oh, okay, it's off. You could tell that she's off, but she wasn't off when she was a ballet dancer, so I don't get it. Another thing, when Adelaide and Red were fighting in the basement, and so this is to further go with the ballet thing, she had no type of finesse when she was fighting Red. You know, Red would be like moving, the quick movements and stuff like that, and Adelaide was so messy. And that does go to her being a tether, but again, you were a whole ballet dancer. They sold a sequence. You were a pretty good ballet dancer, so why do you have no finesse to your movements when you're fighting your tether? And then when Gabriel, when he was going outside confronting the tether family at first, that was just like, yeah, if you want to go, it's like you're trying to do some certain type of blackness, but it's not hitting. But I've seen some Winston Duke interviews, and he mentions how Gabriel was overcompensating, you know, wearing the Howard shirt and all this type stuff. So he's overcompensating for trying to keep up with the Joneses, but he also is kind of trying to overcompensate by being black too. So I don't know. And then another thing that was annoying to me when I was first seeing the movie was like how easy he went down, and then he was like spending half the movie crawling on the ground. But I highly recommend going watch Winston Duke's interview for The Breakfast Club, because I'm getting a lot of stuff from there. But something that Winston Duke made a point of is that, you know, when you're a big guy, it's the stereotype that you could fight for yourself, or that you're this big brolic dude. But some big guys just are not. And that, I feel like some of them would relate to Gabriel's character. Like, yeah, sometimes you just get hit in the knee and you just out for the count, and you can't really protect your family that well. Not everybody is like, not every big dude is a thuggish ruggish bone like her. So I appreciated that after doing research. I think the Red's first monologue was a bit much. I felt like it was really long. I also felt like it could have hinted toward the fact that she was the original Red, because if you notice, all of the tethers either were silent or they grunted, and so the fact that she talked kind of gave you a hint to that she was the original, she was human. But I'm like a show 'em not tell 'em type of person, so she did this whole monologue, and I'm like, can we throw in some B-roll, some shots of her actually playing with these toys that have sharp edges and eating? I mean, her just telling us, I mean, okay, I guess. But it was just like, I could take, I feel like it was her second or third monologue. It was much more like, okay, I could take this. But the first one, it's just like when she was in the chair in the living room, I'm like, okay, already, you just like talking your head off. Like, I get it. Okay. And then the fact that she talked like that, I know there's some controversy behind Lupita Nyong'o's reason for talking like that, but also just to stay inside of the movie, the fact that she was choked when they ended up switching could give way to why she talked like that. Also, the fact that she had nobody to practice speaking with, so she was really rusty. So that could be also a reason of why her voice sounded like that. And lastly, for the blackness part, I just felt like them kids was doing a little bit too much to not get any reprimand. And I'm not talking about beating them. Like, no matter how far a black person has gone away from giving your child whoopings, you're still being reprimanded. You still can't talk to your parent any old kind of way. And I felt like the fact that they didn't even get the like moms there was, I'm like, what? They're like cursing, and that's just not accurate. But it kind of goes to, you know, Gabe was probably just always trying to be their friend, and, you know, Adelaide, I don't know, maybe she spent so much time trying to be a human that she didn't learn the cultural part of being black, of your child is not gonna be talking to you any kind of way. So, and something that annoyed me, okay, if you, at the end, if y'all know the Tether son and mom are still alive, why are you not keeping an eye on your son? I know that him getting kidnapped progressed the story forward, but just like, so y'all just gonna let him walk away? Okay. And initially, when Adelaide went all the way down to the basement looking for her son and Red, I just was like, how the heck do you know how to get, she was on a journey. Like, she needed GPS. I was like, how do you know? But then when you find out that she was switched, that's probably the path she took to go up there. So it was more believable after that. But like, when you in the movie theater, really, like, how does she know where she's going? All these twists and turns. But yeah. Okay, so to go to some themes and thoughts, the whole haves and have-nots theme went totally over my head when I was watching the movie. Somebody actually had to tell me that, and I remember, you know, when Get Out came out and Jordan Peele was talking about how like the next however many movies will be about social issues, and he specified that the next one would not be about race. I guess you would go in asking yourself, okay, what is this one going to be about? But I had totally forgot that. I probably was so worried, not trying to be scared, that I only got what I could. So the whole social economic status thing, even for me to be a film major, I was just like, oh, okay, didn't see that. So for the have and have-nots piece, the humans are the ones that have access to, you know, the money and the resources, and the tethered are the have-nots and have to just make do with what they have. So you can see that in the scene where Abraham, when they're in the living room and Abraham puts on Gabriel's glasses, and he now realizes, oh wow, I can see with glasses. And so up until that point, Abraham has to make do, like he has to stay close to Adelaide, he has to use his hearing and other things to compensate for the fact that he can't see. But to get that peek into, oh wow, now I can see. I mean, I can imagine that's possibly similar to, I mean, because I know it just goes way further for those videos you watch where the people get the colorblind glasses. Man, that has to be overwhelming. But yeah, so it's like getting access to something you didn't have access to before. I'm guessing that some people figured out the have and have-nots theme from maybe the Hands Across America thing, where that is obviously where Red got the idea for her uprising, because in the beginning of the movie, you see Adelaide / Red watching the Hands for America commercial, and she's wearing the shirt, I believe. Is she wearing the shirt? And so once she gets switched, she has that memory in her head to use that. And then because Hands Across America was in 1986 and I was born that year, I wouldn't remember it. And so I had to look it up, and it was about raising money. It's a fundraising event to raise money for homelessness and poverty. And then it just ended up being that one-day event. And then they never did it ever again. So that speaks to how rich people will try to throw money at things rather than actually solving the problem. And that even goes into Gabriel, in that he's in that rich mindset, where when they came and they were in the living room at first, he's like, do you want my wallet? It's on the one hand, he's thinking, okay, these people only want money. But then on the other hand, he's stereotyping them, kind of. Because I'm not sure if before he said that, they kind of said what they wanted. But they didn't come in with guns and guns ablazing. It's like, do you want money? Like, I can get my wallet and all this stuff. And that's not what they wanted. So towards the beginning of the movie, Zora has a discussion with her parents about track and possibly stopping running track. And you know, this and meeting her tether kind of speak to whether things are for your benefit or for your detriment. And you know, the fact that Zora ran track was beneficial in her running away from Umbre. Yeah, Umbre. But that also was to her detriment, because the tethered have either similar issues or they mimic stuff, so Umbre could run fast too. So what was it really a benefit? And so if she had never ran track, then that couldn't have been used to her detriment, but then there will be just some other thing that you wouldn't think of that would be used to her detriment. And then just a side note, Zora's shirt that she had on, it was Vietnamese and it means rabbit in Vietnamese. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what it meant. Or it means bunny. And then when you kind of juxtapose the tether, how they're similar, both Red and Adelaide were kind of wanderers, because Adelaide wandered off and that's how she ended up switching. So the fact that Red wandered off from the bottom was to her benefit, and then Adelaide, the original Adelaide, wandering off was to her detriment, and that ended up causing the switch, or that's how the switch could happen. And so when you go back to the original Adelaide, and her dad won her that Michael Jackson Thriller shirt, something the mom says is that shirt better not give her nightmares. But it ended up being like she ended up living a lifelong nightmare, because she wandered off and ended up being switched. And just, you know, her monologue at the beginning, or at in the living room, of saying she had no choice in being with Abraham. She had no choice in having Umbre and Pluto, because it's just whatever the human does, the tethered has to do. And so her life became a nightmare after her mom said that, and she wandered off. And then on the Thriller shirt, the Michael Jackson wore the red jacket and the single glove, which was an iconic thing that he did. And that's similar to the tethered uniform, where they have the red coveralls with the one glove, and then the coverall is also associated with Michael Myers. So, you know, again, Jordan Peele does everything with a purpose. And so another theme is when you find out that Adelaide and Red have switched, who are you really rooting for at this point? Because they're the same person, or you know, you're rooting for the humans, but Adelaide isn't really human. And then Red is the human, but she's attacking them. So you're put in an interesting position where you're like, who's the good person? Who's the bad person? Is there a good and bad person? Who knows? And then something I wondered, which would be through watching the movie again, did Jason hear the ending conversation before Adelaide killed Red? Because I feel like that's the key to the look that they shared at the end. Because it was like, did he get switched too? But I think it was that he heard the conversation and realized that his mom was one of them. But she's actually his mom, but she's not originally human. So it's just like, I felt like his look was uncomfortable. And Adelaide's look was like, well, got away with it. Ha ha ha. And then if you go back to the beginning of the movie, you realize that, you know, after the traumatic experience, Adelaide could not talk, not because she actually experienced trauma, it was because she was Red, and they're not born being able to talk. So, and then if you go to the beach where she was talking to her neighbor, her friend, and she's like, well, I'm not really good at talking. So it's like these little hints telling you that she's not the real Adelaide, or at least not the human version of Adelaide. So all this stuff was to get her to talk for the first time rather than to start talking again. And then that goes into, she wasn't afraid to go back to the boardwalk because of her traumatic experience. She's afraid to go back because she had gotten away with switching and she didn't want her secret to get out. So and then someone mentioned that, I think it was Kev on stage, he mentioned that the humans are the ones who are given opportunities, and the tethered are the ones who have to take opportunities. So the Adelaide / the original Red was definitely a person that had to take that opportunity to switch places. And so when you're a have-not, I mean, you're sometimes given opportunities through these little programs and stuff, but a lot of that stuff is climbing and taking any opportunity that you can get. And if you think about the really privileged with the people with money, they're definitely given opportunities. Even when you think about this case of the kids getting into college for, well, not for free, but getting into college and they didn't deserve to get into college, that's definitely giving them something and them not earning it or taking it. So, well, they're kind of taking it. And then another idea with the tethered is that you're your own worst enemy. And I can definitely attest to that. I always say that if I wasn't so in my head that I would be an entrepreneur by now, because I'm just very analytical, and if I was just to kind of jump off the cliff type person, man, I don't know how many businesses I would have by now. But I'm so worried trying to keep things perfect that I'm not where I could be if I was different. And then going back to Winston Duke's Breakfast Club interview, which again I highly recommend people watch, something he mentioned is that the human and the tethered are created by their environments. And so again, he mentioned who is the hero, who is the villain. And this is a big thing you can think about when you consider why Black people are where they are, especially as compared to like people who are from Africa and from the Caribbean. And it's something I talk about a lot, is that, you know, when I went to college, I had heard that some of my friends, their parents who are African from Nigeria, Ghana, whatnot, would call black people lazy. And like, you know, some people are lazy, but you have to think about the history of what black people in America have gone through. And so it's a matter of, okay, your grandfather was told he ain't nothing, so that's, well, your great-grandfather was told he ain't nothing, that's slavery. Your father was told he ain't nothing, that's Jim Crow. And then you're told you're not anything, that's, you know, prison to pipeline, school to prison pipeline, and stop and frisk, and you know, blue lives matter, even all lives matter. You know, there's just this repeating of black people being told they are nothing. So the fact that there are people succeeding in this environment is a testament to them ignoring what they're being told, but not everybody can ignore what they're being told. And then you have people who are from African countries and Caribbean countries, and for their whole lives they see people from the prince to the pauper look like them, and that is powerful. Like, black Americans can be in this mental prison, and some people from other parts of the diaspora are not in that mental prison. Like, and so you add in the fact that people from other countries think this is the land of milk and honey, and that you can have so much opportunity, so they're going in with a mentality of just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to do this. And some of them find out, oh no, I can't, because they find out their view of America isn't real. But then some people can make it work for them and be very successful in America, and that's because they don't have that same upbringing. Like, even though African countries and Caribbean countries were colonized, they were still allowed to keep their culture more than black Americans. Like, black Americans, we had to create a new culture. Like, there is some infusion of African things in our culture that when you kind of read about it, you can see the similarities, but we also had to create our own new culture from what we endured, and then how we were oppressed and how slavery worked here. There were definitely, like, in Brazil, there were definitely more slaves killed and stuff, but they have more of a culture that is connected to Africa, like in the Caribbean, and then African countries. Like, what can you tell me, like, Onwubu Okechukwu? Like, my name is Deborah Anderson. I don't have an African name, so you can't tell me nothing about how I'm lazy, or how I'm supposed to do this and that. Like, I don't have the privilege to use my last name to look up where I'm from. That is a privilege. So I think that them being created by their environments, that's what I'm explaining. Like, black Americans are created by their environment, Caribbean people are created by their environment, African people are created by their environment. So there's totally different things that we're dealing with, and totally different mentalities. Not that Caribbean and African people don't go through anything, but it's just like, when you see that your president, the police officer, your governor, your doctor, your lawyer, everybody is black. It's just like when people go to Atlanta. That's people's whole countries. So that is powerful, and people don't give way to how powerful that is. And then the tethered, they have no control over what's happening to them, and so that can definitely speak to lower socioeconomic communities and how they live. Because if you really look into the political system and how, you know, the reason a lot of rich people are politicians at every level is because at the low level you are not making any money, so you got to be rich to be able to survive. If you're, I mean, you don't have to be, but you and your spouse are gonna be struggling if they don't have a good job, and you making maybe $30,000 as a local representative. But I mean, the further you go up, the more you make. But then when you are born rich, you have no concept of what these people are going through, the people you're making laws for. Like when George Bush Jr. was president and they went to a grocery store and he didn't know how much bread or milk was. Like, these rich people do not have any clue what the common man is going through day by day. And so they don't have control. The people who these politicians are representing definitely don't have control over anything. Except when you vote. I'm passionate about voting, but I won't go on a tangent about that. And then lastly, some extras. The actress that played the young Adelaide is bomb. And that just needs to be said. Like, her acting was on point. And so I look forward to seeing her in movies. And then Zora, really enjoyed killing that one twin. Like, that twin was dead, but she just like, bah, 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 bah. Like, okay, I get it, because they was a-holes, but she really enjoyed that. And you know, in that the tethered were mirroring the humans. I saw somewhere that, you know, the mom from the, I think their last name was the Kellys, the white family. She was self-conscious about her looks, so that's why the tether would like slice her face up, because it's the bad version of whatever your hang-up was. But yeah, so that is my review of Us. I'm sure I left out a lot. If you have seen the movie, please let's discuss in the comments. If whether you agree with something I said, disagree, or you have anything to add, please do that. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I will see you in the next video.